As the saying goes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and today, I think, at least in part, our complaining about Swordmaster has paid off. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel.
Unicorn Overlord.
Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, my coverage of Unicorn Overlord, its patches, strategies, or just my coverage of the gaming sphere in general, a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So what is it we are here today to discuss? Well, patch 1.04 of Unicorn Overlord has been released, and it's actually kind of a substantial one. Substantial enough that I'm actually going to break up my discussion of it into two videos, one today and one tomorrow. Today, there are a couple of things that I want to discuss, the things that are the most interesting to me, one of which you already know from the thumbnail, and then tomorrow there's a bunch of other smaller details that we're going to get into. Today, Swordmasters, and less importantly, Valkyria, have gotten a significant buff, as well as we have gained the ability to grind the final post-campaign mission as much as we want to garner XP for as many units and characters as you want to get them up to level 50, seeing as how it has a large number of enemy units, and the XP scaling in that mission is insane and will get you a lot of levels extremely quickly. That's not as important, but it is something that is worth noting. Now, once you have completed this mission once in the post-game, Dying Breath of an Empire Fallen, you can then return to it and complete it as many times as you want. It can be found right here on the world map, where this yellow sigil is, next to the Zenoira Sanctuary. And this is great, because again, you get a massive amount of XP for doing this. If there's different characters that you want to grind up to see what their capabilities are, maybe use them in PvP, those types of things, or just for the sake of completion and getting a bunch of classes and characters maxed out, great. You can do it here. Makes it a lot easier than trying to get minuscule amounts of experience through the final mission or through grinding sigil battles to get XP tomes, things like that. It makes it a lot easier, so that is a nice little quality of life change. Now, the big thing that I want to discuss here is the buffs to two different classes, Swordmasters and Valkyria. This is actually huge. So, what did they change? Swordmasters have gained the ability, the thing that I have said from the very start, to get physical attack from one of their swords. Watch this. Look at that. You are going to be gaining half of the damage of any sword that you have equipped in your offhand, and that's going to be added to your physical attack total. This is such a huge change. I truly don't know why this wasn't the case from the start, but it is massive. Now, Swordmasters are actually going to have the damage output that you would expect them to have, and they're going to be able to use the entire half of their kit that is dedicated to using physical attacks. What are we talking about here? Well, things like Keen Edge, Impale, Meteor Slash, their signature attack that has always been kind of bad. These are going to hit way, way harder now. Not only if you crit, but just with your normal damage, because you actually have so much more attack to work with. Does this make Swordmasters like the single highest physical attack damage unit in the game? No, not on its face. They're not going to outdo Breakers. They're not going to outdo Cell Swords. You know, they still only have a C rank physical attack. But this still is going to make such a huge difference, especially for attacks like Meteor Slash, where you need every little bit of damage that you can get because, I mean, you've got a physical potency of 20 on the attack. You need to add as much oomph to that as possible to start punching through enemy armor. But now you can. And this makes me so happy. Like, people have been giving me a lot of pushback in my discussion of Swordmasters about why I don't really like them, why I rated them really low on the list for my tier list. And the honest truth is they just don't perform half of the role that I expect them to perform and that the game seemed to expect them to perform. Everyone's saying, well, yeah, use them as dodge tanks, use things like parry, nimble fighter if you have the appropriate gear on them, get extra crit damage with charged impetus, things like that. And it's like, you can do that, sure, but there's other classes that are better evade tanks, that are better dodge tanks out there. And then, even if you are able to then dodge tank, okay, you still can't really deal the damage that you need to do to make this a better unit. And even then, if that's the only thing that you can do with the class, when they have all these other cool, ostensibly powerful skills that they just can't use because they don't have the damage output for it, without leaning way heavy into buffs for them to make it happen, it feels like you're lacking. Every other class in the game has either one major role that they excel at, something like Great Knights, who can just crush and blow to bits anything that they run over, that they trample with their cavalry and stab with their lances, and that's all they need to do. Or multiple different roles that they can complete. Like, you want to talk about an evade tank that's also a huge damage dealer? Let's look at Griffins, man. You want to go talk about something like that. A Griffin Master has excellent evasion, boosted because of the fact that they get bonus evasion against ground-based targets, and they also have massively damaging attacks like Aerial Smite. Notable as well, they did actually fix a lot of the skill translation issues for these attacks. Note that Aerial Smite now does say AP -1 to targets at 100% HP. Very nice little change there. We'll get more into that with tomorrow's video. There's just better classes for that type of thing, and they can fulfill multiple roles. Swordmaster was not able to do that. Now, they can. Especially if you have some forged weapons, you can get some stuff in here that has really nasty secondary effects, like get Gale Cutter with Double Blast, so you can attack up to 2 enemies, get extra potency versus flying targets, and get evasion. Forge that bad boy, get it up to 25 physical attack, you're laughing. Dancer's Delight, get yourself some Leaping Slash, do some more crit rate builds, get extra AP back, have that maxed out at 25 with a Forge, get some extra crit rate off of it. Like, you're laughing. You are laughing your way to the bank. And it just never made sense to me that a Swordmaster wasn't able to get extra attack from their second sword, because otherwise, what was the point, right? So this is an awesome change. I'm extremely happy about this. We're just going to go in and do a little bit of testing here really quick to see how much of a difference this makes. So I've set up a little bit of a mock battle here for us. We have Gregor, the Swordmaster, who's going to be fighting Gerald, the Cell Sword. And we're going to just see, it doesn't matter really whether Gregor wins or loses here, we're just going to do a damage comparison. Gregor is currently equipped with 2 maxed out swords. The Greatsword, which naturally comes with 25 physical attack, and the Bandit Longsword Plus, which also comes with 25 physical attack. I'm just looking at the raw damage numbers here, okay? We're going to see how much of a difference this makes. Let's go in and see how they do. Gregor is set up to use Meteor Slash as soon as he comes in. He's also going to use, Hasten Strike right at the start, and already, boom, 73 damage, by the way. Insane. Absolute madness. And the Meteor Slash, ooh, yeah. Now we're talking. Look at how much more damage we dealt there. 3 damage on a guard, 5 damage on a regular hit, 10 damage on a crit. With 9 attacks, that's a lot. Now, we're going to compare by taking off one of our swords. So, barring any extra stats that you were getting, which was never going to be physical attack here, you can see we drop a whopping 12 physical attack. That is a huge drop. That's like a fifth of what our current damage is now. That is big. We're going to see how this compares. This is basically the damage output that you would have had prior to this patch. Look at how much of a difference this is. Now watch the Meteor Slash. Good damage, but not nearly as good. A crit dealing 6 instead of 10. Other hits dealing 2 or 3. It is a big difference. And when you are a unit like a Swordmaster that is living on a knife's edge of hoping you have enough parries to survive long enough for your damage to punch through and finish off the enemy, that is absolutely a massive difference. It is going to be something that is going to make the difference for you. Let's try another example. Let's get Bruno in here. Now, to be fair, we're going to take off some of Bruno's +5 to all stats items because that's a little bit of an unfair example for anyone to be fighting against. Bruno, the god, in that capacity. I think this will stand as a little bit more of a reasonable... Hell, you know what else we can do? We can do this. We'll switch to just something like the Sacral Axe. Items that are going to be a little less ridiculously busted while still on brand for what it is that Bruno wants to be doing. And then some crit rate, okay? So we've got some crit, we've got some damage, we've got a strong axe, he's even got some extra AP and passive points from the medallion, all right? This is going to be a little bit more of a fair fight than anything trying to fight my Bruno. But you'll see how we're able to carve through something like a Berserker's health far more easily wielding 2 swords now. Look at that. 88 damage from the Hasten Strike. Yeah, there's the bulk up, the crit, but then the Meteor Slash. Massive amount of damage. And again, it's Bruno, it's Berserkers. They're really good, so they're going to heal up. But the amount of damage output that we have here is insane. And you'll see it's going to be way, way less once we're switching over to something like, say, I don't know, 1 sword. And we're using this more of a testing against a meat shield so we can see our damage output and less of a we're trying to win, because obviously we would have better gear if we were trying to win. Drop the longsword. Do it again. Watch how much lower our damage output is this time. Hasten Strike did like in the high 80s. 78 with a guard. Not as good. Meteor Slash. Still good. Not as good. The Keen Edge, 69. Good. Not as good. You can see we're doing about 75, 80% of the damage that we were before. And when you're on a knife's edge trying to get that kill, that can be such a huge difference. Absolutely. I love that this is a change now that you have for your Swordmasters. It's so nice to be able to actually trust that they're going to be able to deal more damage. And now, like, you can actually lean into their physical attack. You can give them dues. You can give them other items that are going to give them even more physical attack. Anything like that is going to be good on them. And you can feel good about it. You can feel like they're actually going to do damage here. Also note as well, my Gregor is level 36. My Bruno is level 47. So that was with an 11 level difference. Still, you could see that we were dealing way more damage there and chewing through an absolute HP tank for a lot of damage very, very quickly. Once you get some optimization going on there, I think Swordmasters are going to be really, really scary. Now, notably, Swordmasters are not the only unit that was changed here. We also have to look at Valkyria. Just for the sake of it, we'll look at Queen Elenia, who you get in the post game. Virginia, like, is also a Valkyria, but she's way underleveled for the rest of my team. So let's take a look at Elenia here. Now, much like Swordmasters get half of the attack from their equipped swords, Valkyries get half the defense from their equipped shields. How tight is that? Yeah, it's not as big of a deal as something like an extra sword because, you know, shields only have so much physical defense to begin with, but that nice little boost is going to be really good. And when you have a class like Valkyria that wants to be on the front line and wants to be able to survive and tank as long as possible, there are things like Undying Will and Iron Veil and Maiden's Hammer, all of these getting into the thick of the fight and brawling and taking hits and dishing out hits. You want all of these to be able to work as well as possible, and having a little bit of extra defense to make yourself even more tanky is going to be great. Not nearly as needed as for Swordmasters because Valkyria and, of course, by extension, Queen Elenia and Virginia are already insanely strong characters. Don't get me wrong. Not like Swordmasters that I really feel were underperforming, but it is still a really nice change, and it makes sense that they would make it because, like, it would be unfair to give a stat boost to one of the dual-wielding classes and not the other dual-wielding class for having two of the same item equipped. So, love these changes. I'm super, super happy about it. There's a bunch of other little things that I mentioned we're going to do a second video about as well. You may have noticed like little item icons popping up in our mock battle to show what item was giving what effect in the middle of the fight. That's huge. It's such a nice little visual indicator to help you figure out exactly how your fights are going and what is doing what, when, and where, which I love. I'm super happy with this change. The translation fixes, all the other little things that we can talk about. It's a blast, and I can only hope that this is an indicator that Vanillaware is going to be continuing to work on this absolute masterpiece of a game and adding even more to it. Potentially even a new Game Plus mode, maybe on the horizon. We'll have to see. It would be great. With that said, though, I'm going to wrap this one up here. Let me know what your thoughts are on this patch. Again, if there's something I left out of this video from the patch, don't worry. I'm going to cover it in the next one. And then once I do that, if there's still things that I've missed, you can tell me about it in the comments. I'm super happy. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.